sun is shining. Yesterday was like a blip. Weather's meant to get nicer all through the week. Here's hoping. You know, Tuesday is my 5th favorite day of the week, and it really feels like it today.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody else is having an awesome Tuesday. And I'm having a good one, like all things considered. My coffee machine broke this morning.
No.
Yeah. That's like literally, it feels silly to say it out loud, like that's why I'm having a hissy fit. I can literally stop at 8 places and get coffee, but I'm like, I didn't get my coffee where I wanted. So I'm gonna stomp my feet and have a sulk. But I'm just kidding. It does make the morning not start great though,
No.
let's just say that. But you know what? I don't hate Tuesdays, it's just my 5th favorite. It's not Monday, so it's not full of new opportunity. It's not Wednesday, so you're not halfway through the week. It's just
Right?
Tuesday.
The only thing it's got going for you is tacos.
Yeah, tacos.
Yeah.
You know what? I was like upstairs in my office, and I'm still having my little hissy fit this morning, and I was like, honestly, this is what this little show means to me, because I was like, I just want to get in my Jeep and drive to the I just want to go out and surround myself in nature.
I mean, same though.
Yeah. I was on Nose Hill last night, absolutely stunning, and I'm planning on going again tonight. And that'll do me the world of good. Get outside, get in touch with nature, it always helps. Seeing it and seeing the beauty. However, let's segue with that. And sometimes that beauty in our gardens needs some help. And one thing, it's unfortunate, but it happens. And it doesn't matter if it's a wild plant, doesn't matter if it's cultivated, doesn't matter if it's in a greenhouse, doesn't matter if it's being grown by, the government. Plant disease can get in. And when it does, depending on the type of disease, the controls taken, etc., is how rampant it could get. And Lord knows I'm not going to draw any parallels, because it has been a very divisive subject talking about disease in the human population. But when diseases can go unchecked with plants, a number of years ago, maybe it would have been longer than that. About 6 or 7 years ago, we had a major problem right here in Calgary, specifically with Cotoneaster. It was in a lot of other things, but so many people have Cotoneaster, and they have Cotoneaster hedges, so you see them a lot. And we really got hit by Oyster Scale. Now, I'm not talking about pests here, but the reason I'm bringing Oyster Scale up is that it's a very hard pest to treat, and a lot of people didn't treat it. They didn't realize. But what the Oyster Scale did is that it weakened the plant, as it does, by pulling out the nutrients and the sugars, so the plant is losing some of its immune system, and fire blight moved in. And I don't know if anybody remembers or saw it, and it is still around. This isn't something that, back when I was a young whippersnapper, it's still out there right now. It's just much more controlled, where in the middle of summer, when the leaves should be beautiful and green and soft, the leaves were turning red and brown, and they were crispy. Crunch them in your hand. And this blight was running unchecked, because as the plants were getting weakened, the blight was moving in. So plant diseases, they're normally caused, the primary way is through fungus. There are also bacteria. There's a number of pathogens. But the plant can do quite a bit, actually, if it's a healthy plant, to fight itself. Much like every single day we walk around, we are exposed to a plethora of germs. It doesn't do you any good to think about it, because we don't want to turn into germaphobes, okay? But we are exposed to these germs. Now, if we're healthy, we have a good diet, we look after ourselves, we're active, all the stuff that the doctors say, check. The vast majority of the time, we can fight these off. We can fight off those little common colds or sore throats and all the little things that are trying to get to us. But if we find ourselves overworked, or we're really tired, or we have a lot of stress in our life, or the coffee machine didn't work in the morning. Things like that. These diseases can get into our system. Then it's very hard for us to fight off. Then, as we come into close proximity with somebody, we can pass that along. And that's the same with plants. So we have a really, really healthy plant. And I've seen it before. I've had my garden, and I've looked after it, and it's very healthy, and I'm next to a park, or maybe somebody who doesn't care about their yard. And they have, I'll use a really common one here that everybody knows, powdery mildew. It affects trees, shrubs, annuals, perennials. There isn't a facet. There are some trees that are resistant, some plants that are resistant, but there isn't a type of plant it won't get into. House plants can have powdery mildew. So it'll get into anything. Now I have seen my plants, because they've been watered properly and fertilized properly, I've seen them being able to be like, nope, we're fine, it won't even affect us. However, two things. You can be as fit and as healthy as ever, but if you're locked in a room with 5 people who all have a rotten head cold, doesn't matter how healthy you are, you can only fight for so long before it gets in. Same with the plants. If you go into that room and you're already slightly unhealthy, or you're tired, or you haven't been eating properly, all the things that happen to us in life, you have a much better chance of catching that. And it's the same with our plants. So you have a plant, and it's really hot outside, so the plant is growing very rapidly, but it's also exhausted. It's rapidly burning through all of its sugars, maintaining growth, trying to photosynthesize because of the amount of sun on it. You're watering it, but maybe you get a little bit behind, and you're a couple of days late fertilizing it. So this plant is pushed to the limit, and now the powdery mildew gets in. You have a problem, because now the plant can't fight it. It's already exhausted. So we have to start looking at sprays and treatments and what we can do to help the plant get over it. And we need to know, is what we're putting on, is it curative or preventative? So curative means I have something, but it can be cured. Okay, I can go to the doctor, I have bronchitis. I go to the doctor, he gives me some medication, I take the medication, I get better. Or is it preventative? The common cold, we can't cure it. So we do everything we can to prevent it. Stay away from people who have it. Make sure that we're getting enough rest. Make sure that we've got our fluids, our vitamins, vitamin C, echinacea, whatever else you want to put in there. And I'm not saying they all work. I'm not saying I take them all. But I'm saying we take steps in order to be preventative. And that's where things like this come in. And we look and we go, okay, our plant needs help. What can we do? So, like anything, the first step to maintaining your plant's health with plant disease is good, I knew I wouldn't be able to fit it, maintenance. Okay? Good maintenance is really 2 main things, watering and fertilizing. If we get sick, what do they say? Lots of fluids, lots of rest, lots of good stuff, fruits and vegetables, that kind of thing. Same with the plant. Then they say, oh, you don't want to get a cold. What do they say? Lots of rest, lots of fluids, and lots of good stuff, right? Because that maintains our health level. So starting with good maintenance, making sure your yard is clean. If you had powdery mildew last year, making sure all of those leaves, if you have mulch, I hate to tell you, that mulch should be gone because it's wood, the fungal spores can live in it. Clean that out. Any leaves that fell off the tree that had it, they need to be gone. You don't want to have them in a compost pile at the end of your yard. Get them in your green bin and get them gone. And the reason I say that, I want to touch on this really quickly, is the way the city composts, once that is being fully broken down, it won't be in the compost. There's a reason why we can put things like dog waste and cat waste into the compost, because it goes through what they call a hopper system, which literally hits it with such heat and such water, it breaks it down to elements, then rebuilds it back to earth. So that's why we can put those diseased branches and leaves in there Because Mother Nature will eventually eradicate everything. Doesn't matter what it is. It'll be turned back down, turned back into a healthy soil. But in our garden, it won't. That disease will live there. Same with a blight. People would come and they'd say, oh, my Cotoneaster has blight. What do I do? Okay, you want to trim it right down, get all the leaves out. Use a leaf blower if you have to. You want no leaves, all of those branches in the compost. Then you want to start treating it. You want to water, you want to fertilize, you want to start bringing it back. As it's growing, keep hitting it with a preventative treatment because we want it to get healthy enough and keep that disease off. Again, think of it like this. A lot of times babies don't have the immune system, children don't have the immune system we have. They've never been exposed to those bugs. That young plant has never been exposed to it, so those shoots are very susceptible. So we want to make sure it doesn't get in there. Okay, so good maintenance, and the elements we're looking there are water, fertilizer. I'm just going to write fert because I'm lazy and I wouldn't fit it. I'm trying to write my out here, and clean. And starting a yard. So when I tell people in the spring to do a spring cleanup, it's not just for the aesthetics. It's not just because we like to go in our yard and be like, oh, doesn't this look pretty? That's a bonus. Don't get me wrong. I love, like, that's the part I love the most. But the real intent is to keep it clean and free from disease. And another thing we can do is limit spread. Limit spread. And how we do that is if we have a diseased plant, quarantine it if possible. If it looks like, you can't quarantine it, it's growing, you may have to sacrifice it. And what I mean by that is cut it down, rip it out, get rid of it. Otherwise, that can spread. If you've got it under control, it has powdery mildew, but you're using a defender. And just so you guys know, on that leaf is black spot and powdery mildew. That's what it looks like. So you're using this defender, and you're getting it under control, you're stopping the spread. Hasn't gone to any other plants, you're looking okay. Then you go and you prune that plant. You then go and prune another plant, but you didn't sterilize your pruners. You have just spread that to another plant that you don't have any preventative measures on, and that's how it can spread. So again, much like if we go cough, 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 sneeze, 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 we wash, we sanitize, then if we shake somebody's hand, we're a lot better, as opposed to go, a true snotty hand, how are you, sir? So that's our pruners. If we cut a powdery mildew and then go cut a plant that doesn't have it, it's basically like that plant sneezing on that plant. So we want to make sure that we limit the spread. And that's with black knot, with blight and everything else. Then the other one, and I said I wasn't going to touch on pests, and I'm not going to touch on pests and the damage they do, but a lot of times pests can spread it. So we have a plant and there's bugs all over it, aphids, and then they go to another plant. Well now, sure, they're sucking the sugar out of that plant, but they also brought the powdery mildew with them. So maintaining that garden maintenance and keeping on top of your plants is a good way of doing it. Then there are things we can't control, environmental factors. Powdery mildew is a much more rampant problem in places like the Maritimes of Vancouver. It's hot and it's humid. We have dry and we have a lot of wind coming. You think you have a problem with powdery mildew here? Go look at some gardens in those two areas, plus chance for free vacation. You can lie and be like, Colin told me to go look at powdery mildew, when really you're just having a vacation in Vancouver. That's on me. But it can spread rampantly there because the conditions are absolutely perfect for it. So we have to think of that and go, oh wow, this is already in the air, it's all around me, it's coming from the park. I live right next to Stanley Park and it's covered by it. Before I even see it, I've done all of these steps. Now I am going to do a preventative I'm just going to write prevent. I can't actually spell it, don't quiz me. We might have to do a preventive measure and look after it. And then it's on us. Some diseases we literally cause, overwatering. The amount of times I've seen root rot, or diagnosed root rot, because somebody's flooded their house plant or their container plants. and I've done it before. I've flooded my own plants in pots deliberately to the point where they're suffering, and then I've kept watering and kept watering. Then I've taken them out of the mud and looked at the roots, and it has root rot. And that's because of my practices. So we have to be really careful when we're doing it that we are not bringing things in that are hurting the plant. So when we're looking at disease, it's a myriad of things that can happen. Outside influence, contagious spread, us spreading it, all of these other things, bad hygiene, no actual health to the plant. And that's why it's very important for us to keep an eye on how our plants are doing, and if we see a problem, to react quickly. Very rarely in the plant world do we get a 911 like that. Plants don't fall down the stairs. Plants don't, go outside and sprain their ankle skateboarding. What happens is we get a notification. We see 1 or 2 aphids. We see some leaves with a spot. And a lot of times, and a lot of people are guilty of this, so if you do it, don't stress it. That's what I'm telling you. And people go and they go, I'm not sure, it might be okay. Rarely is it okay. If we feel a sniffle come on, or we develop a really nasty cough, or we've got a persistent earache or toothache, very rarely does it go away on its own. It may go like this and then spike right up. But it very rarely is like, oh man, I've got this wicked bad toothache. Oh, it's gone. Okay? Unless there's something like we're eating a club sandwich and we stabbed ourselves with the toothpick. Okay, then yeah, I know I have a toothache because I've got a chunk of wood sticking out my gum. I remove that, it heals, I feel better. But I'm talking about something that gets in there. Some kind of infection, fungal, bacterial, whatever it might be, viral. It gets into our system and we have to fight it off. And that is much like a plant. So when you see something, reacting quickly, making sure you're watering, you're fertilizing, getting a treatment on it, checking the other plants. If you can, you notice it right away, you hit it with a treatment, you start your watering and your fertilizing, and you take that branch straight off, boom, good chance you've caught it, you've nipped it in the bud, and away we go. Nipped it in the bud, pun intended. So, if we go with that approach that we're going to be proactive, we're going to keep the garden healthy, and we're going to make sure if we see something, we react quickly like we would with ourselves or our kids or our pets, then that's how we're going to keep our gardens healthy. And don't think just because a disease is in, you can never garden. You absolutely can. It just is going to require more steps, more work, some different product, more product, but eventually you get it under control. You've learned a lesson. Now you've learned how to garden with a disease there, and we can keep going. So that wraps us up on plant disease. I forgot to set the timer, so I hope I'm somewhat in the ballpark. I think I went over because, yeah, Brandy's given, but there's a lot, and I only give the bare bones. I literally could have gone into detail about all of the blights and scabs and powdery mildews and rusts, but we don't have the time for that. So if you do have any questions, let us know, of course. We always love questions and answering them. Have a great day. I hope everybody has a wonderful Tuesday. Mine will certainly get better. We'll see you all tomorrow, okay? Bye, everyone.